long time ago, there was nothing but darkness. It's hard to picture just nothing, but that's all there was, except for God. So God made light, and that way there could be day and night, instead of only darkness. Then God made the sky and the earth, and divided parts of the earth into oceans and seas, and other parts into big pieces of land. God made all the plants and trees, and made them grow on the land. God reached into the sky and made the stars and planets. He made the sun and moon, so that there would always be a day after every night, and spring after every winter. God made these things, just as you can make a picture of your hand in the soil. When he saw all the beautiful waterfalls and mountains, roaring waves and bright blue skies, he knew there was still more to make. God looked at all the water covering the world and decided to make animals to live in the seas. He made big fish and little fish, and many underwater plants. Some were too small to see, while others reached from the bottom of the sea all the way to the surface. For the sky, he made big birds and little birds, bright blue, dark green, and many other colours. When he looked towards the land, God saw grass blowing in the breezes and ripe fruit hanging from the trees. He knew it was a good place for animals. So he made tiny bees and giant elephants, crocodiles, sheep, lions, and all different sorts of animals, but they didn't have names yet. There was plenty of food and water for them all. When God stopped creating the animals, trees, birds, and fish, he looked at all he'd made. He was very pleased. Yet he knew there was still more to make. At that time, there were no people on the earth. God wanted to make someone who would be like him, just as you are probably like your mother or father. So he made the first person. He took a handful of dust, blew on it, then created a life that was the first man. From God's hand, this first man was made, and he was like God. His name was Adam, which means mankind. God brought all the different kinds of animals to Adam, and told him they would be called whatever Adam wanted. So he called one a hippopotamus, and another a butterfly. He named the birds, everything from flamingo to pheasant. When Adam had finished naming every single creature on earth, God saw that the animals were not able to be Adam's special friend. So, while Adam slept, God took a part of Adam, and around that part, he made someone who was like Adam, but different. She was the first woman. When Adam woke up, he was very happy, because now there was someone like him, someone who could be his friend and helper. But she didn't have a name yet. When God finished making Adam and the woman, he was pleased. He decided he would rest for one day and bless all that he had made. That's why there's one day in every week that God has set aside for us to take a break from work and enjoy the good things he has given to each of us. God chose a special part of the earth and gave it to Adam and the woman. It was a garden called Eden. There flowers bloomed in the brightest colours and the sun shone warmly. In Eden, all the animals lived peacefully with each other, and no one was afraid. Adam and the woman loved God very much, and they were thankful for the beautiful world he'd given them. They walked around their garden with no clothes on, because they had no reason to feel embarrassed. For them, there was one thing even better than all the dazzling flowers, tall trees and lovely smells in Eden. They knew God cared for them, and they had nothing to hide from Him. God told Adam and the woman they could do whatever they wanted. There was just one rule they must follow. God said, "You may eat fruit from any of the trees here, except one. That is the tree of knowledge of good and evil." The two people understood. Of all the animals in Eden, there was one craftier than the rest. That was the serpent. One day, the serpent crept towards the woman and teased her. "Can you eat fruit from all the trees?" the serpent asked. "Oh, yes," the woman answered. "We can eat fruit from every tree but one. God has warned Adam and me that if we eat fruit which comes from the tree in the middle of the garden, we will die." The serpent laughed at her. "You will not die. God just says you shouldn't eat from that tree, because He doesn't want you to be like Him and be able to tell good from bad." After the serpent said this to her, the woman didn't know what she should do. She walked over to the tall tree in the middle of the garden and looked up. The fruit didn't look bad. She thought about disobeying God. She knew she had a choice to make. God had given her the freedom to choose whether to obey or disobey. So the woman chose. She chose to disobey God. She picked a piece of fruit and took a bite. Then she brought the fruit to Adam and asked him to eat as well. When they had both taken a bite, they suddenly knew that they had been bad to disobey God. The very moment that Adam and the woman tasted the forbidden fruit, they saw things differently. They looked down at their bodies and realized that they had no clothes on. For the first time ever, they felt embarrassed. So they quickly started making clothes with which to cover themselves. Suddenly, they heard God moving through Eden in the cool evening breezes. They ran through their special garden, frantically looking for a place to hide. The Lord God said to them, "Where are you?" "Don't look, God. We're not wearing very much," Adam called to God. "Who told you you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree of knowledge of good and evil?" God asked. Adam said, "The woman gave me some fruit to eat, so I did." "But the serpent fooled me, and that's why I ate," the woman said. No matter what they said, it felt as if a cloud were hanging over Adam and the woman. The sunshine felt cold, and for the first time ever, the people were afraid. Adam and the woman were not sure what God might do. They had never disobeyed Him before. Now all the bright happiness and security they had shared in the garden which God had given them seemed to be gone. God said to the serpent, "Because you have tempted the woman to disobey me, you must crawl on your belly in the dust. The woman and her children will always be your enemies." Then God turned to Adam and the woman. The Lord was very sad because He must discipline His children now that they'd done the wrong thing. God did this because He cared. He wanted Adam and the woman to know that every choice was their own. but that some choices led to good things, while other choices could be painful. To the woman, God said, "Because you have disobeyed me, I will make it very painful for you to give birth to children. But the special bond I have given you with Adam will remain, and you will be subject to him." The Lord God looked at Adam. "Adam, because you have disobeyed me, whenever you try to grow plants so that you will have food to eat, it will be hard work for you. It will not come easily. And when you die, your body will go back to the dust, because that is where you came from." Adam turned to the woman and took her hand. Then God told them that they must leave the Garden of Eden, because they were not now allowed to eat from the tree of life. Adam and the woman looked at each other. They were together, but they felt frightened of all that lay ahead. When they left Eden, they would have to work hard in order to find enough to eat. Adam gave the woman a name then. He called her Eve, which means living. Adam and Eve bowed their heads. They felt very sad. They knew God would continue to show his love for them. But the worst part of their punishment was that they would never be as close to God as they had been before they chose to disobey him. After Adam and Eve left Eden, they took care of each other and soon started a family. God gave them a boy, and they named him Cain. Later they had a second little boy, whom they called Abel. Cain and Abel grew up together, helping their parents live in the world outside Eden, where they had to work hard to make sure there was enough to eat. Cain's way of helping the family was to grow crops. He loved to be outside and feel the wind in his hair, and look forward to the rain which watered the seeds he had planted. The grain he grew could be ground into flour for making bread. He also gathered vegetables and fruit, which helped keep the whole family healthy. Abel's way of helping was to raise sheep and goats. He would milk the goats and give it to his parents, so that the family had milk to drink. Sometimes he killed one of his sheep, so they could eat meat which would make them strong. One day, Cain gathered some of the crops he'd grown and offered them to God as a present, a way of saying thank you for all God had done for the family. Abel did the same, but he chose the first lamb born to one of his sheep to give back to God. God was pleased with Abel and his present, but he rejected Cain and his present. This made Cain angry. God said to Cain, "Why are you angry? Why are you scowling? If you had done the right thing and chosen the best to give to me, you would be smiling, because I would have been pleased with your gift. But you've done wrong. You have to learn to say no to what is wrong and choose to do good instead." Cain wanted to be angry. He didn't think God was being fair. God had said Cain had a choice. Cain chose to be angry. He came up with a plan. He called Abel out to the fields, where Cain had worked so hard to grow his crops. There, out in the open, Cain did something dreadful. He killed Abel. God called to him, "Cain, where is your brother Abel?" Cain pretended he didn't know. God said, "You have done wrong. As your punishment, you will no longer be able to grow